And the man responsible for restoring the greatness of the Raiders joins us now, our former colleague, Mike Mayock. And Mike, look at you. Look at how comfortable you look. You've been on the set for like 2 seconds. It's almost like you've done this before.
I'll tell you what, while I do miss all my friends at the NFL Network, I wouldn't change what I do now for the world.
For the world. Well, we miss you, I'll tell you that right now. And you're doing a heck of a job. Yeah, we do. So, you know, I always thought that you'd be a heck of a GM in this league for a lot of different reasons, Mike. But, you know, then I saw you walking into the stadium, and I don't ever remember Ron Wolf walking into a stadium with a backpack on, like a kid. You had that backpack on, right?
Dude, I'm just from West Philly. I don't know anything about anything else. That's what it is.
You've been preparing for a long time doing this, and for almost a year. What's the biggest surprise that you've had now actually doing the GM thing?
You know what it is, Mooch, is that for 18 years or whatever at the NFL Network, I was responsible for my own production. I had to show up on time. I had to be prepared for the draft. But it was just basically about managing my own schedule. And you come in as a general manager, and now you've got a lot of people working in your department, and you're responsible for everything that goes on. So managing people is a whole different conversation than managing your own schedule.
Interesting, you know?
Yeah, and so obviously you come in and you're with Jon Gruden to make everything sort of work and go here with the Raiders. But what is your relationship like with Jon, and how has it been?
I love Jon, and I think one of the reasons that we get along so well is we both kind of love the game of football. And I think the common denominator is that we respect each other because of that. So we can close the door, and Mooch, I'm sure you remember, I mean, we can close the door and we can argue about players, we can argue about direction, and we can argue about a bunch of things. But at the end of the day, whatever decision comes out of that is an Oakland Raider decision. And there's nothing but mutual respect between the two of us.
You handled our draft for such a long time, and nobody was better, Mike. But how is it different now, evaluating players for television in the draft and evaluating players for drafting on your football team that really is very important to paying off your mortgage?
Yeah, you know what the biggest difference is, Mooch, is when you're doing the NFL Network draft, you're the GM for all 32 teams.
Okay.
And you got to have a feel for the entire league and the footprint of each general manager and each team. When you're a GM for one team, I think the most important thing to understand is that you service the coaching staff. I got to know what the coaching staff wants at every single position. What are they looking for? What kind of length in an offensive tackle? What's important in a running back's feet? You know, what are we looking at here? What is Jon Gruden like in a wide receiver? And the way I look at it is our department services the coaches to try to find the best match, the best fit at every position for them.
I love that. Now, so tell me a guy who you pounded the table for. I got to have this guy. I believe in this guy. He's a can't-miss guy, and he happens to be doing well for you. Is there that guy on your team?
Well,
who'd you pound the table for?
I'll tell you, in the first week I got there, okay, I took the job around January 1st, and the national championship game was across the bay in San Francisco Stadium, and I went to the game. It was Alabama-Clemson. I came home that night and went to the office, and I did a cut-up of Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
And it was only 7 plays. It was 3 pass plays. It was 2 pass receiving plays and 2 run plays, okay? And because if you know Jon Gruden, you better pass protect, better catch a ball, and last is running. And I came home, put 7 plays together, and showed them to Jon the next morning about 5 a.m. And I said, Jon, we're going to draft this guy in the first round.
You told him that, huh?
I told him point blank.
And what did Gruden say?
He's like, yeah, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. And I showed him the tape. He's like, oh, he's pretty good.
That sounded like Frank Caliendo. That was good. So let's go forward real quick. Let's go forward.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of the season right now. You know who you have, and your scouting department is looking for next year, all right?
Yeah.
What do you compile what your needs are and where you're targeting position-wise next year already? Do you do that?
I mean, let's be honest. We're pretty good on offense, and we're not very good on defense yet. So we've got to fix some things on defense. The thing I love about our defense is they fly to the football, and that's something to build off of.
I'm going to ask you for some predictions here. And it's going to be
not a good
real tough.
I didn't do it when I got a paycheck from the NFL.
I know. So hey, maybe you'll do it now. Maybe things are
won't.
different. Is this a playoff team that you've put together here?
Oh, it's way too early, Colin.
See, we had that in the A block. We weren't allowed to say.
They've exceeded expectations.
We're 4-4. And that's who we are, and that's all I can say.
Real quick, what's been the most rewarding part of this job? It's so different than what you were doing at NFL.
I think trying to build a team, and no matter what you're talking about, any walk of life, you're building a family, you're building a business, I think building a team is the coolest thing I've ever been involved with outside of my family.